This is another excerpt from the second part of Logseq Mastery, Workflows and Systems, which I've decided to bring into the public domain in order to make sure that Logseq Mastery remains evergreen content. Because, as I said, things are changing in the way that I'm working with it, and I wanted to use these as examples to show how these things are changing. So at the end of this video, I'm going to give a breakdown of some of the things that I've added and changed in how I process this Twitter thread. But first, to go through that, we need to look at the actual old video. So stay tuned for the end of the video where I explain how some of the things have changed, most importantly interleaving, again, some of the changes that I'm making to namespaces and how this old writing can help generate new writing. Another thing to add on this process of generating new writing is that in this video, I'm just going to show a few things of how I can use things that have been tagged and drag them to a new place and reference them so that I have the building blocks of new writing material. So in this section, I'm just showing a little bit more real life workflows, warts and all, no polish, nothing that is like YouTube friendly or whatever, just to give you an idea of some of the ways that I'm working behind the scenes and that may be valuable for you. So I recently published a Twitter thread on 33 things that I've been thinking about to commemorate my 33rd birthday. And I want to show you how I went about that process and how I eventually got it into Twitter via Typefully. So let's have a look at this. So this is the Twitter thread here. If I just go in here and yeah, 33 tweets, but well, 33 concepts, but like actually 41 tweets. So quite a long thread. Took a lot of work to actually write it. It was how I wanted to spend the day, just like reflecting on these things rather than running ahead and just carrying on with life. So showing you Logseq now, where that started is a very rough set of drafts. And you can see I literally just had 33 things I learned and then the hashtag draft so that I could return back to it. Now, I have changed this a little bit. I have moved it to the 29th of July, but it was originally in the 28th of July, which is my actual birthday, so that I could go back to it then. But I wanted to show it in a blank page so that it's not showing all the other things in the database. And you can see though that I haven't actually entered in my habit tracker here. If I scroll down, let's see what's on the next page. Yeah, so read some stuff and I haven't gone back and processed these points after the fact. So that's a typical workflow of mine where I'll go back and I'll process everything. But I don't do it on a daily basis. I do it when I feel the energy and when I feel like it is part of a natural flow. So I've got these 33 ideas. And if I just scroll back up, you can see here that I've indented another bullet here, which is like throwaways. So if I open that in the right-hand page, I was reorganizing things, shifting them around until I got the shape of, or the right flow of information, or that it made like a logical sense, mostly at least. And then what I did is I copied this into Typefully. So if you just, let me quickly go here and say Control A or Shift down. So all of these I can now, I'll process them a little bit later and you'll see that, but let me just select here, select Control C, and Logseq is a little bit funny where you actually have to wait a little bit sometimes till you see the copied there, and then I can go to Typefully and I've opened a new draft here, and then I can just say Control Shift V. Okay, now I don't want to auto split text, and actually this little bullet point over there is going to be annoying. So what I can do to remove that bullet point is go to I go to Notepad++, and then I'll paste it there, and then I'll just say Control H, and then as you see here, I've got the replace. I can replace that dash space with nothing. So then replace all, and then it's gone. Okay. What I also could do is say Control A, Control A, and then Control, and then Shift Tab just to make sure that everything is to the left. So copy now, and then I can go back to Typefully. I can undo this here. I can say Control A, delete, and then Control V. Okay, and I don't auto split text because then it takes more time to actually find your right spacing here. So then what I can do, if I just zoom in, I'll then go here and I'll say Control Enter. That creates a new tweet. Control Enter, Control Enter, at all the numbers. Okay, so this is how I once I've got the shape of the thread, I'll then bring it into Typefully and start tweaking it a little bit. But you can see here that there was still a lot of work that was done in Typefully. Like this is tweet 2, what I know is that I don't know, and then tweet 3, change is inevitable. If you go here, you'll see here tweet 2, a lot longer, tweet 3, a lot longer, a lot more context. Let me just zoom in there. So I did a lot of work in Typefully, and I want to preserve that in Logseq because that's just the way that I'm wanting to do it for now. Maybe at later points, I won't want to try and get everything back into Logseq. Maybe I'll be happy with it on Twitter, but I like to have those building blocks in Logseq so that I can use them when I want. So what I'll do is I'll go to Typefully. Let me just delete this draft over here because I don't need it. And then I'll go to, tweeted, and then I will select here. I won't say Control A because it'll select everything else there. Although actually maybe it'll be okay. So Control A, Control C, and then back into Notepad, Control A, Control V. Yep, that's not too bad. So I can just remove these little last points here. And then I can remove these top points over here. Yeah, there we go. And now there's a couple of different things that I might want to do. But for me, the first step is to remove the blank lines. So edit, line operations, remove empty lines. Great. Now I want to preserve the line breaks though. So what I'll do is I'll just enter where I remember them being. Now this is pretty laborious, and I'm hoping to find ways that improve this later down the line. So I don't need one there, I need one there, I need one there, I need one there. Okay, I'm just going to quickly scramble through. It takes 5 minutes though, or 2 minutes less. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just add the dashes where I want it to be separate blocks. So then I'll say Control H is an easy way to do this, which is like for every time you see 2, or actually no, I'll have to do this where I say Control H, where it's like a space and a 2, so Control H there, and then replace that with 2. So Shift Enter there. Is that right? Replace, nope, that's wrong. Okay, so I'll have to do it the slow way, which is fine. And if you see something, then you think I can improve it, by all means, drop it in the comments and I'll improve it. And then, yeah, I should probably learn regex. So let's say Control A, Control C, and then I'll just put here Control Shift. Actually, I know I'm gonna put that under a heading block. So let me say JJOT, Twitter thread. But now when I use the HTML from atext, I know that it copy pastes that HTML. So what I need to do is indent this and then go back to Notepad++, Control A, Control C, and then Control Shift V, and there we go. So then I can say this is 33 thoughts to commemorate. And then let's say birthday up here. I could actually put that in the tags. It's not super important. The project, it's one stuttering mind writing, really. Writing. And here I will say published. Cool. And then I can say this is what I worked on. So I'll say enter that JJW, and then I worked on that. And I can collapse that, and then I've got the draft over here. Now some of the things I have I didn't actually use. So what I'm going to do is open my Scratchpad. So I'm just going to say Control K Scratchpad, and then Control Shift, open that up there, and then I'm going to move these points just here for later use. And there we go. Some more throwaways. There we go. And I'll go and I'll sort those out later. And now I don't need this really. Everything has been used. It's been preserved in the final tweet, so I can just say escape and then delete that over there. Great. So that is the importing workflow. If I just maybe make this a bit bigger here. And what I then might do, just to make sure that I know how to, or I can find these things again, is I might go and tag certain tweets. So like here, this is like the themes fear. And this is, maybe I'd want to say times where I experienced, times I felt or experienced. I'd say times I felt or experienced judgmentalness. And I would just go through there and look. I don't want to link every word here. I want to say like spiritual hierarchies or spiritual hierarchies, so I can see spiritual authority maybe. Yeah. This should be a separate tweet. This would be relationship. Yeah. Now I start seeing personal things coming up, so I don't want to go through everything because, as I say, it's not a personal database, but I might go through that and then tag it and find the different things that are useful and the different memory points that I want to come back to. The first thing that I want to mention about this specific video is interleaving your thoughts and the valuable insights that you gain from going back, looking through things and adding the tags and adding comments as you go. So the first thing is a practice, and I'm just going to go to the bottom here because something that I do is I add the dates. So for instance, let's say here, I'm adding something about relationships, and okay, I've already done that for that block over there. Let's say this one over here, and then I'll say tab, add today, /today, and then some observations here. And what this builds is like a record of how I was thinking about certain things. Now, this can be a little bit laborious, and I know people are trying to preserve context and like keeping the block references. You don't have to do it in so much detail. But the nice thing is that, hypothetically on today, I could go there and look at the different observations that I've made on this content over here. And I would see that the original thought was on July 29th, 2022. And I can then see how these patterns change. And that is quite nice to see sometimes. But the real thing that I want to talk about is going back and adding tags. So something I did here is looking at this, I went back and I just added a couple of tags and highlights across the board. So this one, for instance, is on advice, because I spoke about any effort to capture broad perspectives in pithy tweets is invariably going to miss some marks. And that's reminded me about advice. And I know if I just open up so I shift click there, I know that there's something which I've actually wanted to be right or to write on advice. So I'm just going to shift click that again. And there we go. I get the fragments of an essay basically. So what I can do here is I'm going to say JJOP, which is my A tags thing to insert page properties. And I'm going to say this is an instance of essays. There's an error there. And it relates to one staggering mind. Okay, and status is drafts. Okay, great. So the other tag here would be universal advice. I know I've taken that somewhere in my workspace. And what I would do is I would copy this. And so it's just in that block over there, copy that and paste that over there. Okay, now the challenge here is that it's only taken the first line, which is a little bit annoying, or I can only see the first line just because of the way that Logseq works as a block. I can also say Control E and I can paste it over there, and then I get the full block over there. Okay, so let's open up universal advice on the left, and there we go. I've got a whole bunch of things here. Like when I was frustrated with Ali Abdaal saying anyone can do Notion consulting. I don't think that's the case. And yeah, what's more, I think this is probably more useful. It's about how when Buddhism goes bad, whatever. Let's just copy and paste this over here. just so that then I have the beginnings of some thoughts that I can scratch together for an essay on universal advice or universal decrees of the best way to live a life or best avoided. So that is really just a messy start of how I would start working in Logseq. And then, I've got lots of little fragments like that I then start working into essays, and it's all in drafts. And it's very messy, but it's a great way for these organic thoughts to flow. The next point that I wanted to make is, again, emphasizing the importance of being able to use the markdown files in a different tool. So as you saw there, I was using Notepad++, but the one I really like to use is VS Code. So that's my default markdown editor on my PC. And one way I can access that is up here. I can say there, oh no, it's not what I wanted to do. If I have to be on the actual page. So if I go to that page and everything else is closed, it's okay. Then I can say there, open with default app. And that will open up in VS Code. And that's now on the right. And there we go. So I've now got that same file open. And when I'm writing and trying to publish essays, I'll have the different iterations open in VS Code and open them side by side. And then I'll have these different drafts, and that will be on my second screen. And then in Logseq, I'm taking the snippets and I'm putting them into Logseq on my main screen. So you can have Logseq open in 2 instances, but I just find it easier to have VS Code open, and then I can copy and paste the different pieces over there. So very useful to be able to use these tools as in-between tools. Also for extensive search replaces. So for instance, some of you might remember, I used to have this worked on. It used to be in square brackets, so that it could be a link and I can go and like filter. But I did a mass change throughout my database. And the way that I did that, I was using VS Code. Okay, again, looking at namespaces. So some of the themes that I talk, so when I'm writing, I'm thinking about, okay, what are the themes? And historically, I use this one like fear and judgmentalness. I think fear might be a bit personal over there, but let's have a look at judgmentalness. There we go. Looking at Easlow, made over $500,000 selling Notion templates. A lot of judgments about that sort of stuff. Are they really adding value? And judgment being recursive. Actually, this is something that I'm writing about. So, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is that judgmentalness nested underneath themes is probably not the best way for me to do it, because I can say, let me just say judgmentalness or judgmentalness or judgments. I don't actually have one which is just judgmentalness. Okay, so I'll create that there, and then I will change this theme's judgmentalness, and the other instance over here, which is times I felt or experienced judgmentalness. So it's a little bit disaggregated. So the namespaces haven't been helping me here. Like the idea is that I can have a sort of map of high level, and let's go and look at what that exactly would look like. So let's go to themes over here, and it will open it up on the left. And then these are different themes that I've been writing about. But you can see I've already started processing this as well, where I say, being too much is a theme of the things that I'm writing. Okay, so what I'll do is as time goes on, I'm not going to do like a big bang. It's like as these things come up. So for instance, this example here, I would then go and change the name to be fear. Okay, what's over here? Okay, cool. This is fine. So let's see. I'm going to change that over there. Fear. Page already exists. Merge it. So now I have those links. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And now I'll just say that fear is a theme there. So I'm building more of a map of content, and instead of like having this index that is built up via namespaces, it's just more durable to do something like that. Okay, then using years, and this is a point that I wanted to make here, that namespaces are kind of good for that. So they are very good for that. So let's look at 2024 different notes that I took. If I collapse that over there, I had a whole bunch of different things that I attended. There's probably more, but I would be able to very easily go back and have a look at these things. It's quite nice to have that index created by namespaces. But again, there are drawbacks, especially on the file naming side of things. If I navigate to New Year Retreat, for instance, I can, there's some of these things. I actually started writing about this. Okay. Anyways, so then, what I wanted to show was the page. So let me just say, it's actually open in directory. It will take me to, there we go. These are my namespaces, and you can see there it's got that percentage to F, which it's not very durable if you're working across Obsidian and applications like that. So this is why I don't always use namespaces, or why I'm sort of hesitant to use it, but it could be useful for you. So that's a wrap. Again, just a couple of little tips and tricks and ways to work with it. I don't think this has necessarily changed, but I wanted to make this example public so that there's more examples of how you are actually working with it on a day-to-day basis, especially in writing. And let me just actually show that on my page over here. And what I have here is a creative log of all the different things that I am working on at the moment. And I did a video with Bob Dotto about his process. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things here. And really trying to be much more disciplined with my writing, even as I'm working part-time now. So yeah, trying to keep it all in one place and working with Logseq, highly recommend. So as I mentioned in a previous video, this is an excerpt from the second part of Logseq Mastery, which is called Workflows and Systems, which I'm slowly deprecating and making more public because of the way I've started working in different applications and the fact that I'm not just using Logseq for everything anymore. And I want the content in Logseq Mastery to be evergreen. So if you want to become an expert at working with Logseq, the course is still there, it's still packaged, it's become cheaper because this is now, public domain. And I've also started publishing some of the content that was about like the sort of PKM theory or personal knowledge management theory on my website. So have a look at the link below. You can subscribe there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.